You know what? It Going into that game, all I was asking for was a performance, and we came out and we showed that we've changed things up a little bit. Maybe not tactically, but in a mindset point of view, we looked far, far, far better today if you compare it to Tottenham and West Brom. Um, the team who played today absolutely destroys the team who played Tottenham and West Brom. Maybe not destroys, but certainly beats. Um, yeah, all in all, I was quite pleased with the result. Um, Reflecting on it post match, you might have thought 3 points was probably more deserved in the long haul of the game. But I'm sure a Leicester fan would be saying the same thing, considering the sort of the seesawing of both halves. Um, it as cliche as the saying is, it was a game of two halves, but both halves had halves in themselves. I think first half we started on top. I'd say first 20 minutes or so. Then Leicester started to pick it up. Second half we were on top for a good majority of it. I'd say up to about the 70th, 75th minute. And then Leicester picked it up a little bit more, and which is why I think we should have won. Um, Perhaps not should have, but um, had the better chance overall. If you talk in terms of possession and what we did with the ball. But that's something I will get onto. In terms uh, of how we set up, I don't think there was much more we could have done. I was really happy to see Chris Wood back in the side. That's something I will say, because I just think Joe Rodriguez has been underperforming quite a lot recently, and I think he did have to be taken out the side, and Wood had to be brought back in, and that Wood and Vidra partnership, you can't deny it. It looks a lot more solid and a lot more deadly. Maybe not deadly. Deadly's a bit far, but slightly more severe than a Rodriguez and Vidra partnership. Um, to be fair, I think Rodriguez and Vidra partnership is the only partnership that amongst all of our strikers that doesn't really work at all. It worked against Fulham, but that was a poor Fulham side. It was a weak, poor Fulham side in the FA Cup. Um, yeah, that's that. So anyway, I'll talk about the sort of possession side of things now. I think we had, what was it? I think it was something like 63% possession in the second half, up to around the 75th minute. The first half we were dominated big time. I think it was something like 72 to 28% possession, which is it's how we play, and that's understandable. And I think considering we did have 28% possession in the first half, we actually did have more, if not the same amount of chances as Leicester, the same amount of big chances as Leicester. So you can't knock us for that. Second half, we did have more possession. We had a lot more possession, and that's something that we're really going to have to pick up on, because recently, when we've been in possession for good amounts of the game, West Brom, for example, Norwich, even last season, one of the last games of the season, um, they were two men down. When we're in possession for a good majority of the game, it's like we don't know what to do with it, and we seem to try to force things when we have good possession, um, which I understand it's something that perhaps the team's not used to, because we inherently play. I suppose you could call it counter-attacking football. I'm not sure it is quite classifies counter-attacking football with modern day definitions, but that's what it is. Um, Pardon me. Uh, but anyway, yeah, I just think in possession we just didn't do enough in the second half. Uh, there was just a lot of passing it around, keeping hold of the ball for the sake of keeping hold of the ball, and eventually it was just the long ball, which generally amounts to nothing. So I don't know. I think we have to really try to push to learn and develop the team's ability to hold possession well, instead of just holding possession, because possession in itself as a statistic is one of the most pointless things in football. A team can win 10-0 with 20% possession, really quite easily. Maybe not easily, but the gestures there as a statement. Anyway, in terms of individual player performance, Nick Pope Again, didn't really have much to do, but when he did have stuff to do, it was perfectly fine. It was solid. Came out, caught balls well. There were a few saves that he made that I believe would have gone in, but the replays didn't quite prove that to me perfectly. So yeah, I think he had a really good game. I did see some tweets at halftime regarding the Leicester goal. I think, personally, in my opinion anyway, I think Nick Pope was right to come out. In the situation he was in, I will go on to talk about the reason I think Leicester scored a goal. I'm not taking anything away from the goal. It was a very well taken goal and a very good pass, but I think it could have been prevented very simply. Yeah, so Nick Pope, I think, had a very good game overall. Conceded a goal, but if he stays on his line or comes back out and tries to sort of track down the attacker from making a shot, get close in on him, which really, if you're trying to prevent a volley from going in, your best bet is to close in. But instead, people have been calling for his head because he didn't stay on his line. I don't think that would have changed anything. If anything, the player would have touched it down and had a shot and probably scored as well. But anyway, Matt Loughton had a very good game. He brought himself out a lot today, even with Brownhill in the midfield. He was one of our main creative outlets on the right-hand side, as he usually is when we don't have Goodmanson. He and Westwood together actually did some very nice little passages of play together, which was very nice to see. But as I've said in past reviews of each game, Loughton only really performs well when he's got players around him who are on the same wavelength and are playing well as well. And I think Westwood was playing well, but I'll talk about him later. So yeah, Loughton, perfectly happy with his performance today. Charlie Taylor on the left-hand side, a much better improvement, a much better performance overall compared to his recent ones since he's come back from injury. He seems to be starting to get rid of that rust, and is starting to play his game a little bit better. Put in some very good crosses today. Ran well. Defended well for the majority of the game. I don't think there was anything in particular that you could pinpoint him for. I think he was perfectly fine. Yeah, he kept their right winger pretty quiet. I think, was it Chowdhury? I think it was Chowdhury. I'm not clued up on the Leicester players, unfortunately. But yeah, he kept their right midfielder pretty quiet for most of the game in terms of putting the ball in. But that's just Charlie Taylor's game. He can keep anyone quiet. He keeps Adama quiet. He keeps Salah quiet. Give him anyone, he'll keep him quiet. Top class. And honestly, just for the record, Charlie Taylor on his day, which when he's on a roll, his day is every single game. That man has to be in contention for the England squad. He's not in his 30s. I think he's like 27, 28. He's in his prime, and I do actually think he deserves a call-up, or at least some recognition for what he does for Burnley, because he is a very, very good left-back. But, it's Southgate's choice, and I'm sure nobody agrees with any choices he makes. Centre-backs, Ben Mee, the captain. I think, if you're talking about man of the match, I don't think you could call much further away from him. I think he was solid throughout the entirety of the game. By far our best defending defender. He just did everything well. He was there for shots. He blocked the majority of shots I saw. He came in, slid well, tackled well, headed well. Let's not forget his aerial ability, both defending and attacking. Nearly scored that goal about a minute into the game. Yeah, he had an excellent game, and I'd call him man of the match. So yeah, good on you, Ben Mee. James Tarkowski, right? This is the one I'm going to talk about. I think he was the one at fault. As much as I don't want to say it, because everyone loves Tarks, and I don't want people to get on my back for thinking I'm a poor fan because I don't like one of our best players. That's not what I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to get at the fact that James Tarkowski was the man who should have prevented that volley. It shouldn't have been Charlie Taylor. It shouldn't have been Ben Mee. From what I understood when I'd watched the replay back many times, let me tell you, The cross was coming in, but just before the cross came in, Jamie Vardy started running towards the man probably to feign asking for the ball. But he was running towards Westwood and Cork in the centre. And James Tarkowski followed on after him. And I got absolutely baffled because James Tarkowski's man, Iheanacho, who he should have been marking, was unmarked after James Tarkowski went out to hold on to Jamie Vardy. Even though that pass most likely was never going to get through. Even if the pass was made to Vardy, I don't think that pass would have made much difference. Whereas James Tarkowski just opened up the defence big time. He pulled himself out of position, and once again, it was disorganisation, whether it's individual or as a group, that has ruined us. Unfortunately, it was just our lack of organisation for the full 90 minutes that cost us 3 points today, which I think if Tarks and I don't want to use him as a scapegoat today. I think other than that, he was pretty good. Yeah, generally he was standard. I still don't think he was better than Ben Mee, even if he didn't make that mistake. But he was fine. Don't get me wrong on that side, but I do think he more than anyone was to blame for that goal. But as I said, I don't want to take anything away from that goal because it was a very, very well taken goal, and you can't take anything away from that. You just simply can't. So yeah, in terms of the midfield, Dwight McNeil, I think again he's had a pretty quiet game. He put in a few crosses, made some runs, but other than that, that's all he really did. And I said it last review, he needs to start adding to his game because that's running down the channels and then putting a ball in it can't be his only creative outlet, considering he's supposed to be our most creative player. In fact, considering this sort of the rise of Matt Loughton and Charlie Taylor, he's probably not even top 2 most creative players on his team right now. He's just very good at his individual thing. He is the one-trick pony, you could call, of our team. But recently, it's not been working quite as well, so you might have to take that one trick away from the pony and add some extra bit of work. Defensively, I think he was good. He is a lot better now. He's a lot better. He's a manager's dream, one could say. For a young player, anyway, for a wide young player. I've said it before. If I had him on my team in a few years as a manager, I'd be very happy because I think he will turn out to be one of the best sort of young, wise minds. But other than that, I don't think he was, overly amazing. As I say, just the crosses and the runs, they are going to start becoming a bit pointless to this team. But yeah, other than that, I think he was fine. But he just wasn't what we want Dwight McNeil to be, considering the name that he's made for himself over the past couple of seasons. Right midfield, Josh Brownhill, I think by far our worst player. I don't want to say it because I don't like putting our players under the bus. More than anything, I want to be able to say how good our players are. But Josh Brownhill on that right hand side, he is wasted. And please do not get me wrong, that man is a very, very talented player. And in the centre is a different player. But on the right-hand side, he's a shadow. And it's baffling. It really is baffling just how quiet he gets. He put a couple crosses in, I think maybe 2 or 3 crosses throughout the entire game. I don't think a single one of them beat the first man. Made some runs down the wing and then stopped and passed it back. It was all just really quite negative, which, again, you can't really blame him for. He's not a right midfielder. But on the same token, he was Bristol City's captain. And you'd think a captain would be able to be a role model for anyone, no matter where they play on the pitch. And I think if he really wants to push his sort of commercial being as a player, he needs to start thinking about, can I actually do anything other than centre midfield? And currently, right now, it doesn't look like he can. But once he's back in the centre midfield, he will become one of our best players again. I am sure of it. It's just on the right side. He is really is wasted. And I know we don't have an option right now. It's him or Benson on the right hand side. I definitely would rather have Brownhill than Benson personally. But beggars can't be choosers, especially when your entire team is injured. Centre midfield roles. Ashley Westwood back at it again. He's had his couple games off, but the man is back on it. Solid for the entire game. He picked Matt Loughton up earlier, as I said earlier. He picked Matt Loughton up big time. And I think overall had a pretty solid game and not far off Ben Mee in terms of overall performance. And I don't think anyone really had a standout performance. I just think Ben Mee and Ashley Westwood had the most solid 90 minutes across the whole pitch. And even that shot that, I knew the second that shot didn't go in, we were not going to win it. Because I think the last couple games we've played against Leicester, Ashley Westwood's, the second goal of the game for Burnley has been an Ashley Westwood goal. And that one didn't go in, and I just knew the prophecy's being fulfilled. This is not going to happen. We've not won. But at least we got a point. That's the important thing. We are now 3 points ahead of Brighton and Newcastle, who do still both have games in hand on us, but fingers crossed they can't do anything with said game in hand. Jack Cork, I think, interestingly, he didn't look quite as good as he did last game, but as I said in the review, he just looks better when everyone else is performing worse. So everyone was performing a lot better today, and I just don't think he really stood out much. He was fine. He looked pretty composed in areas where you'd want a player to be composed, made some good passes, good decisions. Overall, I would say actually our midfield, you could just mark it as a good decision of a midfield, bar maybe Josh Brownhill. I'm going to stop talking about Brownhill now. I feel like I'm really digging into him. But yeah, I think Court was perfectly fine today. Well composed and overall good game for him. But not an excellent game, just a good game. But a good game is better than a bad game, I will say that. Up top, we had Chris Wood and Matej Vidra. Chris Wood came into the squad with a pretty good goal tally against Leicester in the last 3 games. Didn't obviously score a goal today, but I think he did far better than Joe Rodriguez would have done in his situation. Got in some good positions, won some big headers that, and I'll say it now, Kasper Schmeichel, that man is... I was so frustrated by his performance. Like he is the reason Leicester did not lose today, I'm telling you. He was on fire. And if you're talking about man of the match overall, it does go to him. But Burnley's man of the match is Burnley. Because he kept them in the game big time, made some absolutely baffling saves. Like Chris Wood had two or three shots. No, I'd say two big chances that any other day of the week go in easily. But Schmeichel, I think there was a header. No, there were 2 headers in fact. One header was going across him, and Schmeichel just picked it out as if it were nothing. And then there was obviously the other header down Schmeichel's left-hand side on the floor. And he got down to that, nearly went in, but yeah. I think Wood had a really good game. It's just Kasper Schmeichel just met him. It was a good clash, really, between striker and goalkeeper. So yeah, can't slice him for anything. I think he was perfectly fine, and it's nice to see him being offside again. That's something we've really missed recently. Not a lot of our players have been offside enough, so it's nice to have the offside man himself, Chris Wood, back in the fray. And obviously Matej Vidra up top scored a goal, a first goal of the season for him, and what a goal it was. And something I will say, we have really struggled this season to capitalise on team errors. And when they made that error and Matej picked it up and touched it around the man, I was like, we're not going to capitalise on this. It's just not been happening for us this year. But he did. He took it well. He was very, very well composed and just put it so well in the net with his left foot. And I'm so pleased for him because I feel like he's one of the most unfairly treated Burnley players right now. but he's been in the squad regularly, and he absolutely deserves it because he's been a regularly important player for us. And scoring that goal was massive. First 5 minutes, and it was a very well taken goal, composed, something that you can't describe a lot of our strikers as composed today. But yeah, had a pretty good game, scored his goal, and I'm very pleased for him because I think he deserves it, considering just how influential he's been in terms of this change up of how we've been playing recently. So it has been very pleasing to see him getting his goal and overall having a good game. Let's not forget it. Like he did actually have a good game. Made some nice runs. There were just a few times where he was making the right run, but it's just the ball went too far or the wrong pass was made. But that's not down to Vidra. I think overall had a very good game. And substitutions-wise, Jay Rodriguez, I didn't even notice Jay Rodriguez came on. He must have been on for a second, so I can't really analyse his performance. But what I will say, Sean Dyche, is very, very well time wasted. Very well time wasted indeed. And in fact, that's somebody I don't talk about very often. And I don't think I've talked about at all. Sean Dyche. I love him. I absolutely adore Sean Dyche. I don't want him to leave, ever. Yeah, I think he put out the right team today, and I think he put out the right tactics. And Leicester, I understand Leicester were a very, very weakened Leicester, but it's still a strong Leicester. Let's not shove them aside. It's still a strong Leicester, one that's certainly capable of beating Burnley, and I think Sean Dyche did well, especially in terms of keeping Jamie Vardy quiet. I don't think I heard his name once. From the top of my head, and that's massive. But that is something we do quite often. We keep Jamie Vardy quiet, but a Harvey Barnes picks up or a Kelechi Iheanacho picks up. We keep a Salah quiet, but literally anyone else on the pitch picks it up. Which is just the thing with these big teams. They might have one big player, but that doesn't matter. They have plenty of other big players who can do anything they like. Which is the beauty of Burnley, and that's as much as I am from Burnley, that's the reason I love Burnley and I will forever support them. Just the fact that we're a team, we're not a bunch of world-class players, we're a bunch of rejects, let's be honest. We're a bunch of wanted rejects who are strutting it up in the Premier League and picking up points against some of the world's best teams. And losing 4-0 to some of the worst. Just a quick dig there to Tottenham. Anyway, this has been a very long video. I don't even know how it's gone on so long. Overall, I'm very, very pleased with the performance and the result. My prediction at the start of the year was 2-2. Didn't end up that way, but it could certainly well have been 2-2, but it wasn't, because I think both keepers had a pretty good game, but Schmeichel on top. But enough arse kissing of Leicester. We now have a big game on Saturday against Arsenal. Can we do the double on them? No. I'm hoping so. But Arsenal have been picking up. They've just beaten Leicester 3-1. But we'll see. We'll see. I can't personally see us doing much to really worry them. But you never know. You never know with little old Burnley. But anyway, fingers crossed we bring the game to Arsenal, and fingers crossed we have some players back, because it was a little bit depressing seeing Dale Stephens, Eric Peters, and Jay Rodriguez on the bench as our senior options. Though it was nice to see Lewis Richardson on the bench again, and on another day I would have liked to have seen him play today, but I think Dyche was right to not make many substitutions, or to essentially not make a single substitution, because I think the team played very well together today, and I think it would have been silly to upset the floor that was going on. But anyway, yeah, I'll finish the video here. I've been rambling on for the past 25 minutes. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Please lay down any discussions you like in the comments. I'm all for it. I'm open to it, and I enjoy it. On to the next one. Up the Clarets. Thank you very much.